Okay, today what are we going to talk about? All right. Some of you might be wondering why I'm doing this. Uh, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my nephews. I'm doing it for my stepkids. I'm doing it for people that I've worked with, people that have known me, people, and even some people that don't even know me. And maybe somebody gives you the URL of this web site, and they say, "Hey, why don't you go check this out? You might have something good to say, and you might find it interesting." And I just feel like, part of me. I remember years ago, my mom felt a real compulsion, felt like maybe she needed to become a missionary to China. It's like, wow, a missionary to China. Back that was a really big deal for her, and her parents were really concerned. They were scared that she'd go off to China, I think, and I think she told me that they were scared she'd get killed or something. But anyways, but she didn't go, and she didn't go, and she met my dad because and then she had us kids. And I remember her lamenting to me, saying, "Oh, I should have gone to China." And I'm thinking right back, but Mom, you got me. I mean, you got me and my sister. Yeah, and it's kind of, part of me is going, "Oh, man, maybe I can make it up to you, Mom. Maybe you didn't go out and talk to, become a missionary in China, but maybe I can do something for the Lord that will make up for, quote, your mistake. But I'm glad you made a mistake because I'm here. Thank you, Mom." But anyways, so I'd like to talk a little bit about how a stronghold, a mental stronghold, is developed in your mind. And I would say, for me, I'm talking from my experience. This is wow, I'm going to actually share this one too. Okay. I would say that sometimes mental strongholds are built from childhood trauma, okay, and a childhood perspective to protect themselves, okay? And so, and then those decisions that are made in childhood, when you are a child, to protect you, on how you are going to protect yourself, may carry over into adult life, and you may not realize the full impact that those childish decisions you made are affecting you as an adult. And it's this blind spot in your life. And so I'm going to take you on a little journey, and maybe this will help you to kind of look at your own life. Kind of look at, okay, what blind spots do I have? This is some of the blind spots, and this is how Paul got there. What do I have? Because sometimes I think we all have them. Everybody, and I'm kind of wondering, okay, God, God's dealt with a lot of different blind spots in my life, and I'm going, okay, what's next? What else? Where else am I wrong? Okay, and how are you going to help me get out of it? Is it going to be painful? You know what I mean? So let's start out when I was a kid. Okay, can you remember all the way back to when you were a child? When you were in diapers. I can remember, I think all that way back. I was born in New York, and I remember being in my crib and crying. And crying. I think I was standing up, holding the edge of the crib, crying and crying, just wanting somebody to come. Somebody to, come be with me, something. And nobody came. Okay? And I thought at that moment, nobody loves me. Now, where that came from, I don't know. But I had this feeling, nobody loves me. And I sat down, and I was just like, wow. It was like this revelation, a wrong one, I guess. But it was just like, that was like the first trauma that I ever remember. Then I felt as a child like something was missing, and I didn't quite know what it was. And we lived upstairs, and downstairs there was this family, and they had a kid that I liked to play with. And one day I was looking through the window, knocking on the window, and like, let me in. And I believe what I was thinking at the time was, I was looking at this family. They were all sitting down to eat, and it was like I was seeing a family together, and I was going, man, I like that. I want that, and I want to play. Let me in. I want to be with you guys. And actually broke their window, a little square window, just pounding on it. And we eventually, because I don't really remember my mom and my dad holding me or hugging me much. Years later, my mom, I think this comes from a kind of like, it's kind of like a cultural thing from where my parents came from, where they didn't really, in that particular culture, there wasn't a whole lot of holding or emotional type of support. I look at some cultures like the Spanish culture, the South American culture, and it's just, I look at some cultures and they just seem so pro family, hugging, love, Italians, just there's touching and everything, and I felt like I didn't really get a whole lot of that, and I think maybe it was a cultural thing. Also, so my dad and mom, we lived in New York, and my dad had a problem with the weather. It was just too cold for him. So we moved out to Southern California, and we started going to this small church. And, I think I was, wait a second, no. There was a church that we were going to, and there was a baby dedication of me, okay, of me. So, and the pastor got up there and he called everybody up that wanted to be dedicated. And, there were a bunch of people that were supposed to come up, but it was just my mom and my dad. And my mother had this like question mark in her mind that she mentioned to me many years later. And she said, she felt like she was rejected by the church. Now, my father was like 10 years older than my mother, okay? And back then, maybe that didn't fit. We're talking almost 60 years ago. We're talking that maybe that didn't fit the cultural norm for the way that people got married. I know that might seem like maybe far-fetched, because if you live out on the West Coast, things are different out here. People older are marrying people younger. Perhaps our whole culture has shifted but gotten away from these narrow viewpoints of what marriage is about. But back then, so I might have felt some rejection, and I just didn't know why. But anyways, the next real big thing that I experienced was hearing my mom and my dad yelling at each other in the house. And I opened the door to try to get in, because I wanted to stop them from arguing. And so I opened up the door, and it had one of those chains on it. I could open up the door like an inch or two, but then the chain stopped me, and I just started pushing and pushing. And what happened is I pushed the door wood that the chain was on. I pushed it all the way out, and I kept pushing and pushing it. It came right off the wall, leaning, and I couldn't get in. But I closed the door, I believe, and what I did is I ran to the back of the house and I just started crying. I thought to myself, I thought they loved each other. I thought they loved each other. That was painful. And my father ended up having a drinking problem. He was alcoholic, And thank God he got into Alcoholics Anonymous just years later, and it really helped him. But he also had a big temper. And I remember once I'm not a perfect child. Maybe you've been watching this and thinking I have been perfect. I doubt it. Okay. I remember my mom was really something else. Let me digress. She was a real Christian. And she would invite all the neighborhood children over, and she had this flannel board, and she had these little flannel things, and she'd talk about Jesus and all other kinds of things. And my first crush happened with her doing this flannel board, and there was this little girl, I think her name was Tina, and she was wearing this pink dress. It was fun. I was like, wow. Yeah. And man, that's a long time ago. So let me get back on track here. So things were going on in my dad's life that I had no idea what was going on. Okay. And she ended up divorcing him. And it was the right thing to do. I remember getting the spanking of my life because I had done something wrong. I really had. But back then, I didn't have a lawyer. I couldn't sue my dad like they do now. And spanking was part of the deal of being a parent. And, corporal punishment was okay. And both my mom and my dad, it was just brutal. Both my mom and my dad, I was in the tub and lying down in the tub on my belly, and the door was open. They both happened to walk by, and they both kind of looked, and they kind of laughed. And I'm going, what are they laughing about? And I look back, and there were these big red hand marks on my butt, Like, okay, whatever. But anyways, so they got a divorce, and my mom never really told me what was going on. I think what she was trying to do is she was trying to let me have a viewpoint or a perspective of my father that was in a good light. She was trying to respect him by not telling me what he was doing that, would cause the marriage. So she never really talked about him in kind of these bitter, angry tones, in her heart. But I wondered, at that point, I'm going, where's my dad? I really miss my dad. How come my dad doesn't call? Maybe if I'd been a better person, maybe if I'd been a better little boy, he'd still be here. I think that's what, children do. They blame themselves for something that they don't even understand. So that was painful. So we started moving around and stuff like that. But I had this yearning for my father. Where is my father? And I started, wondering, other relationships, started to form, with other people. I met other people, and I met this one person, and I was wondering, I wonder if this person could be my father. And he was only a few years older than me. Okay. And I was yearning for a father figure. It's like built right into me. And in fact, up until my 40s, I just wanted that relationship with my dad. I finally in my 40s, I said, I guess it's never going to really happen. And, for whatever reason, my dad is a very intelligent man. He was a very intelligent man at that. And it's almost intimidating to be around him. He's so smart. He's the kind of guy that would play maybe 20 people chess all at the same time. He was like in this chess club, and he had all these people. They all had chess boards, and he would go around and play everyone at the same time. It's like, wow. He's a pretty smart guy. And he had a way of being, to me, it was intimidating. It's like how do I measure up to a man that's, kind of brilliant in my own eyes, in my own childish. How do I get his attention? How do I get his affection? And come to find out years later that he came from a really broken home, a really he had a hard time, a relationship with his mother, his father, and his brother. And I won't go into all the details of what that was about, but that, affected him. He didn't have the model, the family model, and understand the importance of, showing affection or whatever. So, I never really got a whole lot from him, but he did some really nice things for me throughout the years. And when I moved out on my own, every Christmas he'd send me $1,000. That was really cool. And and for Christmas, and he also did some other things like when I was younger, every once a year he'd fly me down. We go to Disneyland. That was fun. But it was kind of interesting too because at that time he was kind of like, every time I go down there, he was married to this person, or he, had a new relationship here or there. It was interesting. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Anyways, so a relationship with somebody that I wanted to be my father went bad. And I won't go into details. It doesn't really matter. But not right now. Maybe in the future. But and I made a decision then as a child to protect myself. And the decision was, I will never trust anybody again. It's like, wow, what a decision. It made as a child, okay? Okay, so that's one of the big, bad decisions I made that went with me into adulthood. The next, one of the next big decisions I made was on a playground. I was maybe fourth or sixth grade, somewhere in there, and I had buck teeth and kind of a crew cut haircut. The reason I had buck teeth is because I sucked my thumb. Okay, and my mom, she got this stuff that you put on. It was in a bottle, and she put it on my thumb that made it really taste bad, so that you couldn't suck your thumb. Now this is, just when I was a really small kid. One day I got a hold of the bottle. I went behind the house. I poured out the bottle and I put water in it. A devious little kid. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so I'm this funny little kid. I've seen pictures like, man. Later, my mom got me braces. Thank you, Mom. I am this little kid, and there were these two hot chicks, man, in the grade school. I mean, they were the hottest ones. So whatever that means at that age. And I was on this kick. There was this kick. You would kick a ball. Forget what the name of that was. It's a long time ago. And you kick a ball. And so I went out onto the field. They rolled the ball to me. I kicked it farther than I ever had because I wanted to impress these two girls because they were watching me. Yeah, man. And I kicked it a long way. Let me tell you that. I mean, it's the hardest kick I've ever kicked. Just as a kid. And I come running up to these kids, these two girls, on the playground after I had kicked the ball. And, looking at them like, what do you think? They looked at me, they looked at each other, and they laughed. And in my childish way of looking at that, well, I'm going to protect myself from them too. Well, gee, if women are like that, who needs them? Oh, man. Great decision there, Paul. And that decision also went with me into adulthood. Now, so what happened is as I grew, in my professional life, I got a lot of help from a lot of different people because I knew I needed it. But in my personal life, I didn't think I needed it. I couldn't see anything, wrong with the way I was thinking. It's just like, I'm going to protect myself from everybody. But what it did is it created a pattern of isolation. And I think what the enemy, the tempter, does is he wants to isolate people from each other so that, man, he can just beat them up and, spit them out and do whatever, he wants with them. So if you're feeling isolated right now, I think you need to do something about it. Okay? Do something about it. In this country, kind of like the thing, many the attitude is, you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Okay? You go out there, you do something with your life, and you make it happen. And as an analytical type of an individual, analyticals, which I'm a strong analytical, we have a tendency to think that we don't need anybody anyways. We don't. We can figure this out on our own. I think that's one of the things I was thinking as I was getting older is, what's the big? I can figure this out on my own. I really don't need any help. Woo. Okay, so there you can see. Now along this way, I'm a Christian too, and if you met me during this phase of my life where I'm just oblivious and have some real blind spots, and I offended you, or I hurt you, or you looked at me and you said, man, that guy's a hypocrite, and you left the church because of my bad attitudes or my blind spots, I apologize. Please forgive me. But so, the reason I'm able to talk about this stuff right now is because I've gone through some things that have, shown me that, how wrong I was. And, some of you may be thinking, oh, come on. You're not very smart. You're not a very bright guy. If you're going to hold on to childish ideas and thoughts and carry them into adult life that are so ridiculous. Yeah, you got a point there, but my question to you is, maybe I'm not so bright. Okay, whatever. Well, how about you? Are you so bright that you don't need anybody? Are there blind spots in your life that you are refusing to deal with? I remember, I love to listen to the radio. There were these Christian psychologists, because I felt like, my life just seems off, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. What is it? And I'd listen to these guys, just trying to give me something, man. Just give me something. I just constantly listening, trying to find out what in the world, is going on with me. If I can figure out me, maybe I can move on. But I don't know where I'm at and where I want to move on to. So, and one of these, there are several things these guys say that really stick with me. One of them was, he said that his greatest fear was his own propensity for evil. That he was scared of himself, that he had the ability to just go off the deep end and do something bad. And I said, I'm with you. I'm with you because, if you look at human nature, without God, I think we're in trouble. We have the propensity to do great evil, just terrible things. And, thank God for God that helps us, get on track. He also said something else to me. It made me so mad that I turned off the radio and I could barely listen to either one of these guys ever again. Ever again. I try listening to them, but every time I listened to them, what they said, what one of them said, came back and it was like haunting me. It's just like, okay, so what did he say? This may really get to you. I don't know. If it does get to you, at least finish the video, okay? Just don't turn me off right now. I'd like to give you my perspective at least on it. Then if you want to turn it off and never listen to me again, well, whatever, okay. But he said, whatever age that you experience trauma in is the emotional age you stay at until you get over it, till you get healed. And I just blew up, and I pushed it off, and I said, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. That happened a long time ago, and I don't need to go back into my past. It's not affecting me now. So I'm getting angry, and I'm just like, and I kind of think to myself, wow, you're really angry about something. What are you angry about? It's like, if what he's saying is true, okay, whatever trauma you experience in life, that emotionally you stay there until you heal from it, until you deal with it. I mean, that is like, wow, what a statement. And so, my sister told me, hey, Paul, I think you need counseling. Counseling? What do we need counseling for? Besides that, it's going to cost money. Besides that, I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with all my stuff. It's way in the past. It's not affecting me now. I don't need to do it. I don't want to do it. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar to you? Are you struggling in this way? Now, let me give you a biblical perspective of God. Let me ask you this. Do you think God, our Heavenly Father, is going to let you stay in this state of mind? If your state of mind is off, if you have this is part 2. I just got a phone call. I need to turn my cell phone off when I'm actually, the cellular portion of the phone off when I'm actually doing that. Maybe I was getting a little too excited for you. Whatever. Anyways, I guess the point I want to make is, if you don't deal with your stuff, okay, on your terms, God may put you into a situation or situations where he gets you to deal with it. You can't run away from it. And what the situation or situations might be is pressure. He's going to put you maybe into a painful or a pressure environment that you really can't legitimately get out of. It probably won't be dangerous, to you physically, but it could be from a mental, emotional standpoint. It could just be really a difficult time for you. And if that happens to you, this may be, if you get into that place, it may be God trying to help you see some of the blind spots that you have so that you can move on with your life, so that you can get the healing that you need, because God ultimately wants you healed. He wants you whole emotionally, mentally. And so he will put you through pain to get you there, and he's a loving Heavenly Father, and it sure doesn't seem like he's loving then. When you're going through this stuff, forget it. Like, what are you doing? You trying to kill me? Now, I've already had another video where and maybe he is. He's trying to get out of you something you can't see. Wow. So maybe before it gets to that stage, maybe you want to take a good look at your own life, your own perspectives, your own attitudes, and say, hey man, do I need an adjustment here or there or whatever? Maybe I really do need to explore this before God gets involved and he starts messing with me, okay? God bless you. I hope you can get something out of this. And this is my life. I'm not going into all the details. Details are not important because, it's pain. God will bring you through painful circumstances to ultimately bring you healing and blessings and get you moving on to your final destiny. Don't run away from the pain. Don't run away from the difficulties. I mean, if you're in danger physically, do something about that. But because what I think happens sometimes is if it's a relationship and you end a relationship, you go to another relationship, but God's still after you, you may end up finding that you start going through the same pain again because you are taking you to a new relationship and you need some healing. So it's like you can't run away from you. Okay? You can't. You are you wherever you are. Okay? So God wants you to deal with you. Get the healing you need. God bless you. Appreciate you. And, this might sound strange, but, I think about my nephews. I think about my family. I think about my stepkids. I think about, the people I have worked with. There's a part of me that it might sound strange, but I love you guys. Okay. And this is my attempt to give you a different perspective on me, way I see things, on life, that I hope will help you. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.